This is Job Seeking Skills Video 11, Succeeding at Interview. I'm Keith O'Malley, Career Advisor with Law Society of Ireland. Hi. This video is one of a collection of 12 that deals with the whole area of job seeking skills, and it's within the final 3 that are all focused on interviews. So, in video 10, we looked at preparing for interviews. In this video, video 11, we're going to look at attending and succeeding at interviews. And in video 12, we're going to look at challenging interviews. There's a booklet provided with this video that you can access through the hyperlink button below on YouTube, and it contains detailed information on how best to perform at interview. What we're going to do in this video is we're going to look at 4 different matters. We're going to look at presenting yourself. We're going to look at effective answering techniques. We're going to look at how to best negotiate matters such as salary and other benefits. And we're going to look at finishing strong. We're going to look at each of these matters one by one over the course of this video. So we will start with presenting yourself. It's important to attend interview well dressed and to arrive early and to be relaxed. One suggestion is that you, if you've got adequate time, that you ask to use the bathroom. That gives you an opportunity to wash your hands so you're not going in with clammy hands, and also gives you an opportunity to get a sense of the workplace. What should you bring in for interview? You should bring in an envelope containing 2 or 3 copies of your CV in case some of the people at interview don't have a copy of it. And you might bring in a small notebook, a spiral-bound notebook, for a reason that I'll go into in due course. It's important that you address people by their names, and a good idea here is to look at up people on Google and on LinkedIn beforehand, and try and match people up to photographs so that you are not going to have any difficulty in remembering names when you go in for an interview. Very important to maintain lots of eye contact. Do not drink tea or coffee, but if you're offered water, which you probably will be, you should take a glass of it. Water is very handy. For example, if you find that you are asked a question, you're not sure the answer, you take a sip of the water and it gives you that 10-15 seconds to gather your thoughts. Enjoy yourself and demonstrate that you're enjoying yourself. You do this by smiling. You do this by, looking at the lighter side of something. Ambition and enthusiasm are very important to demonstrate, and you should never be negative. Not about former boss, not about a former firm that you worked for, not even about competitors. An interesting rule to try and follow is the 50-50 rule. Both sides of the table should talk for about 50% of the time. Another rule to watch out for is the 30-second to 2-minute answering time, and that rule quite simply says that most answers should be delivered within half a minute to 2 minutes duration. That there are times that it's necessary to give a longer answer, but when you are giving a longer answer, be very careful that you don't lose your audience. Important to focus in as far as you can on what you believe are the priorities for the employer, and particularly for the person, for the decision maker. And the decision maker is the person to whom the job will report to. One thing you should consider is answering in an as effective manner as possible. And in particular, this tends to involve slowing up. Too often people anticipate a question and start formulating the answer while the person is still asking the question. Wait till the person finishes. How do you know that they finish? Well, you let them, you wait 5-6 seconds and you see that they're finished, and then you acknowledge that they're finished. And you do this by nodding or saying okay or saying yes or something like that, and then and only then start composing your answer. If you're not sure of something, it's a good idea to ask some questions to clarify. So if you're asked a question, you're not sure whether they're asking you a technical matter or whether they're asking you about man management or something else like that, ask and to in order to clarify before answering the question. It gives you time to think, and quite often it's gives the person an opportunity to improve on their question and ask their question maybe in a more directed way. Should you ask questions at interview? This can be a good idea. There's a whole load of reasons why this works well. You can keep people on the other side of the table alert. It allows you to gather information. You can move discussion onto priority matters for them. These are all good reasons, but you've got to be careful that you don't overdo it, and in particular that you're not seen to take over the interview. The key here is to recognize the difference between open questions and closed questions. Closed questions are questions that can usually be answered with yes or no, and they tend to be all right. Be careful about asking open questions at interview. If you are going to ask an open question, make sure that it's a quality one, and quite often you'll be asking it in order to open up discussion about a priority matter for them. If you don't know something, general advice is that you should admit it, because if you don't, you'll just end up proving it. However, before you admit that you don't know something, clarify what they're asking and make sure that quite simply you don't know what they're talking about. A good strategy at that point is to explain how you would get help. So say, well, I've got a number of barristers who I can contact to get clarity on matters like this. So for something like this, I would probably contact Francis O'Brien and get a view. Another thing that you could do is talk about similar aligned knowledge that you have. Just give a brief outline. Don't go into it in any great detail. Negotiating. The best time to negotiate salary and benefits is after they have told you that they're interested in you, that you're the person for them. So try and avoid in getting too involved in discussion about salary at early stages. What you should be aiming to do is to learn what is the most that they'll pay, and also to make sure that you have a good idea of what the going rate is in the market. And you can do that by looking at salary surveys, by talking to recruiters, talking to career support, and also consider other benefits that are on offer. In terms of negotiating strategy, you should avoid giving them a figure. That you may well be asked for a figure at first interview, and in particular you should avoid a minimum figure. Try and throw the question back at them. Say something like, well, salary is not, I don't expect us to fall out over salary. What I'm really looking for is the right opportunity. But you also probably need to pitch this salary to fit in with a salary structure here at the moment. Is that the case? If they say yes, then you can say, well, would you mind giving me some idea of what kind of figure you have in mind? If you do have to give a salary, don't give a particular figure, but give a range, and give as wide a range as possible. Maybe a range of 10,000 euros. You will, the interview normally ends or winds down with an acknowledgement that they've asked the various questions that they want, and an invitation for you to ask a question. And that's where this notebook comes in place. If you want, you can have written out some questions, and you can say, yes, well, I prepared some questions here. Flick over the cover of the notebook and go down through the questions till you come to one that hasn't been asked, asked, ask that and only ask one question and say that's fine. They quite simply are being polite. They want you out at this stage and they don't want lots of questions. Use this time, however, to say that you've enjoyed the meeting and having met them and heard about the job, that you're interested in the job. If there are reasons why you feel you're particularly suited, reiterate those reasons. And a good idea is to finish up by asking, have they got any reservations? Better to discuss those now than have them concerned about them after you depart. Say goodbye to everybody by name, shake their hand, and there is also a suggestion that you follow with a thank you email to the person to whom the job will report to the decision maker. So what we've done, looked at presenting yourself, we've looked at effective answering techniques, we've looked at how you might negotiate best, and how you can finish as strong as possible. That's the end of this video. I look forward to talking to you again in video 12 when we're going to look at challenging interviews.